everyone, welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Marie Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry, coming to you from our socially distant studios, two separate ones at the edge of the Great Red Divide. The Great Red Divide is that space between us and California that's bright red Trump country, and Murray and I are trying to bring the message of democracy across the Great Plains, actually all around us, into the southern United States, so that you can learn what you need to know about the Democratic Party, progressivism, and democracy. So you can find all of our previous works at www.heartlandmamas.com and on Demcast, all podcast networks, and of course YouTube. So if you want to see us later, you can. All right, Marie, so what are we going to talk about today?
So, we have done a few shows about coronavirus.
A few.
And the last show, right? The last show we did was we talked about education and going back to school.
Yeah.
So, Heidi and I have really been thinking long and hard about, one, how to really get this somewhat under control until science and technology catches up with us. And that sort of came into our pre-show, Heidi, about needs versus wants.
Right.
And, we know that things are essential, right? We know that medical care is essential. We know that food is essential. We know that money is essential because of the society that we live in.
Right.
But, there are other things that are maybe not essential. And that may be going to bars or having concerts or sports. So we really kind of wanted to break down where we feel we need to focus our energy, and hope you'll help focus that energy that way.
Right.
And I think it all starts, at the federal level, Heidi. We have to talk about what is going on with this next, quote, CARES package or benefits package or whatever they're terming it.
They're calling it the HEROES Act. It's called the HEROES Act. So the first one was called the CARES Act, and I really don't know why we need to give these cutesy names to important legislation, but in modern times, apparently we do need to do that. And
how about it's Save Your Ass legislation?
Well, because so many of these legislators are, so much of Congress is up for re-election. Right now, it is a Save Your Ass package. And it's not a Save Your Ass package for the Democrats because they're advocating for the people, the progressives even more so, for working families. And then you have the Republicans who claim to be fiscally responsible, yet have spent us into the record amount of debt, national debt right now, by giving lots and lots and lots of money to very wealthy people, and it does not trickle down. I never got my $4,000 raise that Trump promised me from the tax scam. Did you? No. So
no.
What do? We turn around.
In fact, it cost both of us more.
It cost me more. It cost my small business more. So when we talk about this HEROES Act that's making its way through Congress now, months ago, our members of Congress got together, our representatives, the House of Representatives got together and passed an amazing act which not only re-solidified the benefits for the people, not for the corporations, for until it's no longer needed, which is 6 months until we no longer need it, months ago. And Mitch McConnell, the Grim Reaper himself, was so busy trying to fill every single judicial seat on the federal bench he could, up and down, all over across the nation, that he neglected to do any work on this HEROES Act. Neglected it. And we knew from the get-go that he was never going to pass what the House of Representatives had passed. So they bring in a new one. And the first thing that they're really concerned about is not how do we help people weather this storm? It's how do we help corporations weather the storm? Do you know that we gave billions and billions of dollars to tycoons, to real estate tycoons in the CARES Act? We gave billions of dollars to huge corporate giants that we give money to that don't pay any taxes right now.
Heidi, I just want to go off of that for a second.
Yeah.
You are 100% right. And when you said, the CARES Act was, I didn't feel it was the smartest piece of legislation. No. It was done quickly because
rushed.
It was necessary.
Yeah.
There was, but really it wasn't well thought through.
No.
There was no
they had
oversight.
Weeks to get this right.
Have.
Yeah, they had weeks to get this right.
$14 billion
Missing. Missing.
sitting there
Yeah. No,
for
and there's money
testing
missing too.
that
Yeah.
has,
Yeah.
and there's money missing.
Yeah.
There are, I mean, the Catholic churches got huge PPP breaks
Right.
and no oversight.
No
So,
oversight.
look at all of it also covered all the airline industry.
Right.
Well, that was great, but that also said that they could start laying people off come September.
Right.
And we know we're not back to where we were. We can't travel anywhere around the world. Hell, some states don't even want you going and coming from their states.
Listen, the
so
Chicago.
that affects the entire industry.
Yes. Yes. So here.
So it wasn't really well thought out.
It wasn't.
It was a lot of money. It was a great grift.
And
opportunity to slide things in.
The Senate thought they were being smart, and they thought they'd put in a poison pill. And the poison pill was $600 extra from the federal government per week for people on unemployment. Now, here's what they wanted to do. Then they started stirring up trouble so that people would get mad at people collecting unemployment. They don't want to work, they'd say. They don't want to work because they're making more money staying at home, which is a big fat lie. A big fat lie. Okay, so they just put this poison pill in, so then they get people talking. Ooh, they're getting more money to stay at home. Now that it's the Republican states, the red states, and you know who you are, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, Texas. You know who you are. Kentucky, yes. You know who you are. And now that money is run out, now you all down there that are suffering because you didn't take the precautions that Illinois took and other states took months ago, now you're like, but the $600 is gone. We didn't want you people up north or to the east of us to have it. Now we want it. And you all can't have it. But that's just wrong. That's stinking thinking. That is the wealthy billionaires and millionaires making people fight over the crumbs. It is the billions of dollars left in testing that Trump never authorized. It is the billions of dollars that went to corporate giants. It is the billions of dollars that went to tycoons. That's what you should be mad about. Not that your next door neighbor is getting an extra $600 a week because they're suffering and unemployed. So I'm just furious about this. Underemployed, yeah.
Underemployed. So we had we've had an opening up across the country of places, but we're also starting to see shutdowns. Chicago shut down restaurant and bars, which is a huge part of our economy.
Yep.
California shut down indoor dining again. As more of this happens, as we get farther and farther along, we're gonna see people going back on unemployment. Or, restaurants only being able to have 3 people on staff or 2 people on staff. Yeah. And those and that's not even talking about the other aspects, such as service industries.
Yeah.
All of those people, the DJs, the party planners, the cake makers,
the makeup artists,
conventions, the convention folks.
Yep.
So many have been impacted and are going to continue to be impacted. So in the Senate, when Mitch McConnell says things like, people need to go back to work, where are they going to work, Mitch?
Yeah, where are they going, Mitch?
I'd really like to know.
Where are they going? Because right now, Mitch knows this. 42% of people that make less than $40,000 a year are unemployed, functionally unemployed. And most of those jobs are not coming back because they're in the service industry. A lot of these mom and pop businesses that were left out of the PPP program are going to go under. There is no saving them now.
Heidi, let's talk. We didn't bail out landlords in the PPP plan.
No, we didn't.
So we've put these rent moratoriums in place, which absolutely needed to happen. But businesses who can't,
somebody still has to pay the mortgage.
Open.
Somebody still has to pay the light bill. That's right.
Or the mortgage.
Yep.
Just like and so then that puts that additional burden on those folks who maybe own one building and have no way of paying their own. So there's so many layers that we really need to consider, and that's what's very frustrating is that we get short-sighted on what is beneficial in the long run. Now, and you're right. They had months.
Months.
You thought that this was not going to come back. If you thought that this was all over, you're an idiot and have no place
But
in
that
public
was the
office.
Republican
Sorry.
rhetoric. It still
Oh
is.
yeah.
That still is. DeSantis, who's the guy in Georgia? I can't think of his name.
I think Trump just said like a week ago. If I can't remember the date, but he
Yeah.
said, yeah, just wait. November 4th, the virus will be gone. He said that.
Are you kidding me? Murray, I
No,
have 3 close
no.
personal friends in the last 48 hours that have come down with COVID 19. 3 close people close to me. Now, I haven't been around them,
It's
but, because we've been quarantining, but these are people that had to go back to work. Their unemployment was over because their boss called them back to work, and they all have COVID 19, all 3 of them. Now, I also have people in my outer circle that are people I'm acquainted with, and I want to say that's about 9 people. My county, in LaSalle County in Illinois, went to a code orange, which means, and my friends that work at the hospital say, you have no idea what's coming, batten down the hatches. This one's going to be bad. So, I'm still prepared. We've talked in previous episodes about Heidi having her disaster preparedness kit, and I do. And we're always ready here on the farm for that. And I don't understand why Mitch McConnell wants to be, and the Republican Party wants to be so cruel to the people who are suffering the most. I don't give a crap about the lot that's next to Trump Tower, Trump International in Washington, D.C., that some developer wants that they want that money built into the CARES Act. I don't care
it's
about
all
that.
greed.
Yeah,
It's
I
all
care
greed and
about
power, as we've talked
I
about
care
many
about my
times.
neighbors that are not working right now because there are no jobs. That their job is
But
shut down, their place of
Mitch's
work.
neighbors are all working because Mitch's neighbors are all uh, high level professionals,
He's so out of
donors.
touch.
So he's so, exactly,
It's like all the
exactly.
Republicans that represent me in my area are make way more than I do and have no idea, and have for so long, that they're in a whole different echelon than most working people. When most working people in my area make $56,000 per household per year, and our average starting representative starts at 77,000 plus $100 per diem. And what does a congressman make? What does Adam Kinzinger make? 107 plus per diem.
176,000,
Yeah.
I
So
think,
you tell me
maybe.
how Adam Kinzinger has anything in common with most of the workforce in the 16th congressional district in Illinois. He has no idea what it's like. He probably has never bought a gallon of milk. He probably doesn't know what that costs because he can have it delivered. So I look at that and I think to myself, this is why we're having problems passing the HEROES Act, because the heroes are the ones that are doing all the work right now or not being able to work right now, and Congress, that's out of touch with the rest of us, is just skating along. Well, I can't buy a new Hermes scarf. What am I going to do with last year's BMW? That's horrible. Are you serious? Well, really, because you and I go to Democratic stuff. Nobody drives a BMW. You wouldn't dare drive a foreign car. So, in fact, when I bought my new car, my new Buick the other week, I made sure it was okay before I bought it, I made sure it was clear with the UAW. So, because that matters to me, that counts to my family, because I know that keeps people employed. I know that puts people to work. I know it keeps paying the bills. So, but Mitch McConnell, guess what they did? They took that $600 and they only wanted to give an extra $100 a week to people. Now they want to give $200. So that's $800 a month. That doesn't pay rent anywhere. So if you've got rent and you've got food and you've got utilities and you've got a car payment and you've got, well, you won't need fuel because you're not going to work. It costs us nothing to be good to the people. It costs us no more, I should say, to be good to the people and leave the corporations out of this next CARES Act. We don't, or HEROES Act. They don't need any more. We've given them tax breaks and tax breaks and tax breaks until we bleed money to fund the upper class. And here we all sit here in need. Marie, I'm just furious. I'm livid.
And we all know trickle down economics doesn't
It
work.
doesn't trickle down doesn't happen. It didn't happen under
And it
Reaganomics.
builds from mercenary capitalism, as
Yes,
we've
it sure
talked
the hell
about
does.
so many times.
Yeah.
And that, I think, we need to address. We talk, for those of you who don't know, mercenary capitalism is not capitalism. Capitalism is not evil. Heidi is a capitalist. She has a small farm, horse farm. She trains. She has a
Yep.
world-renowned reputation. I have a small soccer club, nationally licensed. Mine's nonprofit. Hers is for-profit.
Yep.
Having a business does not make you a capitalist. Owning a corporation does not make you a mercenary capitalist. Investing in communities and treating your employees right is capitalism. And we know that needs to happen in a free
Yes.
market society. But mercenary capitalism is what has happened and evolved over the last 50
It
years.
started with big oil.
That is where our boards, our stock prices, the importance of making a dollar
Yep.
for people who do not need that dollar at the sacrifice of employees, the ones actually earning you the wealth,
Right.
that is mercenary capitalism.
That-
And it continues beyond that, because then those people who are in those positions of power donate and contribute
Yes.
to Mitch McConnell, to those folks.
Right.
So when Mitch McConnell puts his let's fix things hat on, which comes out about twice a year, he's
It's all
thinking not
words.
necessarily about
You and I.
about Phoenix Soccer Club or
Woodland Meadows. Yeah.
He's thinking about the hemp industry in Kentucky.
That he's going to
He's
corner the market
thinking
on.
Yeah,
When he
he's
gets
thinking
retired.
about corporations
Yeah.
that donate to him, the industries that lobby
He's thinking
him,
about the Koch
that
brothers.
fund,
Koch
him.
Industries.
so he can stay in power,
Right.
so he can continue to do their bidding. And that's where mercenary capitalism, is that's a fundamental part of the problem of mercenary.
Mercenary capitalism keeps us from having Medicare for all or universal health care, because every time we have a health care discussion, we invite insurance companies into the discussion, which offers no health care whatsoever. They're a bureaucracy, a bunch of bureaucrats, a for-profit industry, and they don't belong in the health care discussion.
Heidi,
Period.
yesterday, perfect example. 2 days ago, or at the end of last week, Trump signed the executive order that reduced the cost of insulin.
It's only
and then there
taken
were
3.5
other
years.
drugs. I don't remember what they
Yeah.
were. No. But here. So he signed this executive order, and it was this big thing. And somebody actually said, "Hey, it's something he did right. He did bigger change than Obama was able to in 8 years." Because we go into mercenary capitalism. So he was supposed to meet with these industry executives and have this whole conference, and they all backed out. They won't sit down with him. They won't talk to him because he signed that EO.
Oh, no.
So that executive order was something that he did was good to help everyone. But the companies, he pissed off the corporations, the capitalists, the mercenary capitalists, and they went, screw you, no more. So that's how it works.
That's why you need women to lead, because yeah.
Even if someone has the most pure intent, you can't make things happen unless you're elected. You can't get elected unless you have money. You and I can't give them enough money in order to get them elected.
That's right.
So they have to turn to organizations and corporations. And the more organizations and the more corporations they turn to, the more they get the money to win, but then they're beholden. And then they roll back EPA protections and they regulations.
And the Clean Water Act.
It's all mercenary, and we stop losing sight of humans, which is exactly what we were talking about.
Well, it's the fact that we know that COVID-19 is connected directly to climate change, which we have not talked enough about. How this happened, how this came to be, has roots in climate change, which why we're talking about COVID-19 and losing the Clean Water Act and losing the Clean Air Act and all these environmental regulation rollbacks. We're doing more damage that are going to cause more global pandemics. I mean, it is a vicious circle, ladies and gentlemen, and we have to cut it off. I was so hoping that we would elect a hardcore progressive like Elizabeth Warren. I was so hoping we would have that type of tenacity come to the forefront, because you know what? Mamas don't play, and they also don't let people get sick and suffer for money. They don't do it. The exception to that being my state representative, Sue Resin. No, Sue Resin. I'm thinking more local. Sue, send everybody back to school. I'd like to know which colleges her kids go to are going to open this year. because I'm betting it's none of them, because they're all private schools. So, the thing is that, oh, Betsy DeVos, who's never taught a class in her life, is in charge of education. Are you kidding me? So, but Murray, we need to talk about other things that the government and the wealthy have tried to make important to us, to make it appear as if it's normal, that we are back to normal, whatever that means. And I'm talking about professional sports. So we're going to change gears hard here, because this all has to go with this blowing smoke up our ass to show you that everything's normal again. So far in the NFL, the Cowboys, Broncos, Saints, Washington, whatever they're going to be called, Jacksonville, and the Vikings, Oklahoma State, all have COVID positive players or staff. It has affected the PGA, the NBA, the WNBA, and the UFC, and Major League Baseball. So, making us...
Okay. On that note,
Yeah.
personally, we are season ticket holders for the Chicago Bears. We bought our PSLs. The Bears canceled their preseason last week, and then they issued letters to all of the season ticket holders just on Monday or Friday, saying, well, if you want us, we can hold your money over, or you can have it back, because we don't think the season is actually going to happen, or there won't be any fans in the season. So the Bears have pretty much said there won't be any fans. If there are, if it's allowed, and if they are capable, what the Chicago Bears will do is they will offer seat opportunities spaced out like it's supposed to be to season ticket holders first.
Okay.
But of course, we don't know the price or anything like that. So, but they're pretty much not having a season, which is why, and the Florida Marlins, they all just have to.
17 players, 2 coaches have COVID-19. 17 players
Right?
and 2 coaches. And it's also in the White Sox too. The Chicago White Sox have COVID positive players, or management with the Chicago White Sox. So what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is where is the rush to get Major League Baseball back on, or NFL, or NBA, or NHL? All of them. Why are we pretending to be normal? This is not a normal time, and continually putting the players out there is just like us sending our kids back out there to school. It's stupid personified. They're just not smart moves.
But remember, some of those players are the ones that are helping to push this. Some of those, granted, you're very different if you're a server versus a first baseman.
Right. You're bunny.
Fundamentally, right, but fundamentally it is the same. If they're not working, they're not getting paid. And if they're not getting paid, then they're not being able to sell their merch. And if their merch isn't getting sold, their futures are on the line, as well as egos and strengths. But no offense to any of our listeners who happen to be athletic. There's some brilliant athletes out there, but also somehow professional athletes don't seem like the first ones I would turn to for safety advice. Or what is healthy and not.
Oh, are you talking about Ditka? No. I cannot. Okay, Mike Ditka has not been relevant since 1984. He's not been relevant maybe since 86. Okay, he's not been competitive. He's been a giant asshole. I used to think he was really cool until I started reading more about the personal philosophies he lives by 20 years ago, and I'm like, oh god, this guy's really a creep. That was when he had his Ditka dogs and they went under, and he was bitching about that, about how it's all partisan. No, it's not all partisan. Your food was lousy, so your service was terrible.
You're a crappy manager.
You're a crappy manager. Nobody likes you. So now he's talking about how any of the, what is it, XFL, is it the new XFL, some stupid ass thing that'll go under in a few years. And I think that's the one with no rules. Like, if they have a concussion, they can send them right back in, because that's what Ditka believes. He doesn't live with concussions and traumatic brain injuries, or maybe he does. Maybe that explains why he is that way. I think
that explains a lot. Yeah,
that could be. But and when I lost all respect for football was when all my heroes from the 84, 85, 86 Bears are all drooling on themselves and not able to make a coherent sentence anymore because of the head injuries they sustained under Ditka, who would send them back in no matter how bad their bell was rung. So, yeah, Mike Ditka, no respect for you, buddy.
When we're talking about about these professional athletes who, this is their job, this is their
Yeah.
livelihood, this
Yeah.
is,
Hey,
and some of
I
them
made
are
my,
not willing to take that risk.
yeah.
Many of them are like, hey, that's what the negotiations were all about, as to whether they'd even come back. Some teams decided not to come back because of that. So
Right.
you got to give some there, but that filters down. We are
Yes.
so driven by
Sports.
winning
Our
as a
gladiator
nation. Mercenary
mentality.
capitalism.
Yep.
Capitalism and mercenary capitalism. Winning. Ultimate winning is ultimate money, power, greed.
Winning. Are we winning
Winning.
yet?
Winning. Exactly. So we're so obsessed with this. Like you said, there's also this clamoring to get back to some sense of normality, but like the outrage when the Ivy League conference said no fall sports was insane to
I
me.
know.
And it's going down to our high schools. I mean,
Oh,
okay, so
Marie.
you are a horse trainer and you
Yeah.
work with youth and you train. I have a soccer club, a nonprofit soccer
Yeah.
club, but I also coach at a middle school. I won't have a job this fall.
Yeah.
Because we're not doing sports. But yet the high school IHSA in Illinois here is still trying to have
What is the
sports camps.
pussyfooting around
Kids
with that?
getting
Okay, so Morris, Illinois is just 12 miles to the east of where I live. 12 miles. They have had both volleyball players and football players come down with COVID-19. You know what's happening to those kids? The other kids are bullying them for getting a virus that they can't avoid. So now
because they have to shut down the program.
they have to shut down the program. So suddenly it's their fault that they have a virus. Well, maybe their parents drug them someplace on vacation, like Jacksonville, Florida, or whatever, and they came back with it. I don't know. I really don't know because I don't know the children personally. But I do know bullying is always terrible, and the bullying that's coming to play is ISHA's fault, and it's also the fault of the high school that allowed this to happen. Now, there's other high schools near me that are also having positivity issues in LaSalle County. I don't have those numbers in front of me. I've just kind of got drug into the conversation on these poor kids from Morris. I just think it's terrible, and that the Morris principal superintendent needs to hold these bullies accountable for this. My God, it's a pandemic. This affects the kids, their psyche for the rest of their life.
I'm
feisty today, Marie.
You are. But when we talk about sports, it's that win mentality. It's that competitive thing that we need, and we drill that into our kids. We drill that in as a value that we have, which is why we don't want to wear. It plays into a lot of the problems that we have today.
Yeah.
Is that competitive drive for winning. And I'll tell you, as a coach of teenagers and young adults up to the 20s, 21, most kids, by the time they reach this point, unless it's their parents pushing, a portion of them are dedicated and committed and want this.
Yeah.
But it's because they have put so much time and effort in. And that's soul crushing for kids. Like, I have a friend whose daughter is on a Trek scholarship for University of Illinois, and she's going to be a freshman. Doesn't even know if she's going to have a season. She didn't have a spring.
Right.
And there are those kids, but a large percentage of the kids on those teams, unless you're an elite school or a big school for a specific sport, they're not that big of a deal. It's more the parents wanting the kids to have this normality, have something, and that's really causing damage.
Well,
I'm furious with the IHSA.
See, the ISHA could come through with a clear set of guidelines, a clear statement that is not so mired in mud. My daughter was an elite athlete. She was an elite thrower from junior high through her senior year. She went downstate. She had scholarship offers that she didn't take because she would rather ride her horses. And unfortunately, I let her. But at the same time, I know what it's like to raise an elite athlete. I know what it's like to raise somebody who kicks butt and takes names. And I know that it was such a huge part of her identity. Now, as a parent, her life is more important than her performance. And if she was in high school now, I'd be saying, you know what, you're not going to go and train, because she used to train year round for this. And I would tell her she's not going to go and train. As far as my horse show season, it's gone. Now, there are some shows still being held, but we are point hunters, so we hunt for points to go to the world. There's not going to be a world show for us this year. It's been canceled already. It's in Georgia. Who wants to go there in November when it's a hot? But it's election week. So that's the basis for my income. Now I have some student athletes, some young athletes that are horse riders, and they want to get out and show, and their parents are really encouraging them. Their mentors are pushing them to go. And we had this discussion over the winter. This is not a year that we're going to go out. We're going to save 2020 and hit it hard in 2021. And they're starting to waffle. And I understand, because I've done this for 30, almost 40 years now. Parents live vicariously through their student athlete, through their child athlete. And, I see it. Yeah.
Do.
You see it in soccer. I see it with horses. Oh my God. It's like, please don't overhorse your kid. Please don't yell at them when they're at the show. They're doing the best they can. They're stressed out. Get out of their space. Let them have their bubble. And, but I see it this year. I see it, that the kind of squeaking. We should be getting out there, especially when people that board at different barns or work with different trainers are out there showing now and competing now. And that makes them feel like they're missing out. I understand that. I understand the missing out, because I'm missing out on income because you're not going to horse shows and you're not taking lessons. Okay? I understand that. But at the same time, we have to get through this year. We have to prioritize health and wellness this year in order to be successful in the years to come.
And I want to piggyback off that as we wrap up here, Heidi. I just kind of like to say something along what you just said in closing. 6 months, a year is nothing, and we think it is the end of the world.
It isn't.
Kids, whose arbitrary timeline are we on to make sure kids are learning reading, writing, and arithmetic, making sure kids are playing sports, making sure the economy is going again?
Right.
No one's. We need to set our own realistic and healthy agendas. I think that's sort of the whole point of today's show, is understanding that.
It's making sure that the priorities at the federal level, and that's by talking to your senators and your congressmen. Send a message to the White House, like that would do any good, but you could try and say, this is what we need out here in the heartland. This is what we need in the real world, and conveying that to them. I think, those of you who have student athletes, talk to the ISHA. Say, listen, we need a clear statement. We can't keep pretending we're going to have a cross-country season, or we're going to have a basketball season. We're not. It's not going to happen. I doubt.
So stop trying to force it.
Yeah, stop trying to force it. Stop making this artificial plan. It's not doable. It's not cohesive. It's not safe for the kids. Stop it. Stop it. You just need to hang it up for 2020. 2021 will be different as long as we start behaving ourselves. So
that's the biggest takeaway today, guys. Behave yourself. We need to focus on what we need,
or the mamas will get you.
What we want.
Yes.
And tune in to us next Thursday. Tune in to us Thursday.
2 days.
2 o'clock. Yay! So again, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. Like, subscribe, share. Find us on Demcast USA.
Heartland
You can
Mamas.
get us anywhere you get your favorite podcasts.
Right. And on YouTube. So Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com. See you there. And take care, everybody. Stay well. Bye-bye.
Thanks.